You're watching the ACC on ESPN. We had weather move through Charlottesville, Virginia earlier this morning, but the clouds have given way to sunshine here in the afternoon, and we are getting set for a great lacrosse game. Two of the blue bloods of the sport, the 12th-ranked Syracuse Orange and the 4th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers, have met 40 times previously, and they've split those 40 games exactly 20 apiece. That's how even this rivalry has been throughout the years. Let's take a look at the ACC standings. You certainly are aware of what's happened at the top of the league this year, with Duke, Notre Dame, Virginia just swapping number one in the country, seemingly back and forth every week. But Syracuse and North Carolina, both still ranked, and both still have a lot to play for over the last couple of weeks of the year. Along with Paul Carcaterra, I'm Chris Cotter. And Carc, when you think about the NCAA bubble and Selection Sunday right around the corner, Syracuse may have a big role to play, might they?
Oh, 100%, Chris. When you think about the Orange, they've exceeded expectations. They are ahead of schedule, playing so many freshmen. They double their wins from a season ago. But if they win these last two games of the season, they're going to the NCAA tournament. It's about the now for Cuse.
They've got Virginia this week. They've got Duke coming up at Duke on the 29th. Two huge games. Well, if they want to win this game today, they're going to have to somehow find a way to slow down this Virginia offense, the number one scoring offense in the country in Peyton Cormier.
Cormier has been automatic this season for Virginia. He's currently number 2 in the nation in goals per game. His superpower for me, catches everything. His inside presence also gives the Cavaliers room on the perimeter. But when you get it inside the number 24, it's turn and rake for goalies. But Cuse's Will Mark, he'll have something to say about it today. He's a top goalie in the country, can steal a game. He's 5th nationally in save percentage, and his unorthodox style, being big and sitting low, can drive shooters bonkers.
Carc, face-offs have been a real problem for Syracuse all year. They've gone with Jack Fine, they've gone with Johnny Rachusa. Today, they're going to go against the very angry Petey LaSalla. I mean, LaSalla's good enough in his own right, but he's coming off a subpar game against Duke last weekend. I think he's going to be a little bit upset at the way that game went about. Right off the first whistle, face-off violation against Syracuse.
Yeah, and LaSalla will like to stay on offense, and if Syracuse decides to get him out of that equation, it gives Virginia the opportunity to play 5-on-5. So LaSalle is not your typical face-off guy here, creating offense from behind.
Look at him, look at the dodge and shoot. Doesn't get through. Relentless on the ground, LaSalle is too. Doesn't have to pick this one up, but Virginia's got it. Now looking for a little unsettled. Pass in front. Ball was dangerously loose in front of the crease, but Will Mark was able to scoop it up.
You know, there's a couple things for Syracuse outside of the face-off X. They're going to have to clear the ball exceptionally well, and Virginia is going to press ride them. Full court press, man-to-man coverage, whatever you want to call it. In lacrosse, it's the 10-man ride, and they will be relentless when Syracuse tries to clear the ball. If Syracuse can be super efficient clearing the ball, around 90%, you can offset some of the face-off discrepancy.
Alex Simmons, part of this first midfield unit for Syracuse, the transfer from Denver. Now Cole Kirst. He shoots just wide of the target.
He's a big boy, 40 in blue. Grad transfer from Lehigh. Wants to be a broadcaster. Will probably take Cotter's job and say, I don't know, 5 years. He's a matchup problem.
Might be a matchup problem for me if he wants to take my job. Tries to pass it in front. That pass goes wanting. Finn Thompson couldn't find it, so a turnover. You can see both teams do really well, Carc, out the gate.
Yeah, I like the way both of these teams move the ball offensively. A lot of assisted goals. The ball moves at hyper speed. Unselfish type of offense. Both have quarterbacks who like to pass.
Cormier, too high. It's going to take me a moment to get used to these throwbacks. Virginia honoring at halftime the 1983 ACC championship squad, so they're wearing these really cool throwbacks. We'll talk about them throughout the course of the game, honoring the 80s success those teams had in that decade. They won 5 ACC titles in the 80s. Shuts, scores!
He's not a throwback. He is a new age midfielder, Griffin Schutz. 6'3", 230 pounds. When he's feeling it, this offense goes to another gear. I mentioned the one quarterback. That's Connor Schellenberger with a beautiful pass to Schutz. Schellenberger always has his eyes up. He's got 5 offensive players who can fill it up. But Schutz, to me, when this offense is really, really dialed, Chris, Schutz is that outside presence. And right there, he stretches with a beautiful shot.
Fine in LaSalle. If Syracuse is anywhere near 50% from the faceoff dot today, that's a win for Gary Gates' crew.
Yeah, they haven't in any ACC contest. And what's tough to swallow if you're an Orange fan, they've been in every single game this season, ACC or not, other than the North Carolina first game. They had a chance to win every game in the fourth quarter, but can't win those huge faceoffs.
Xander Dixon on this team, this Virginia team, they've got the second leading scorer in the country in terms of goals per game in Cormier, and the 4th in Xander Dixon, number 10. Schellenberger come topside, beautiful pass, and Mark is forced to make the save.
Talk all those goal scorers. They also have the second best statistical passer in the country in Connor Schellenberger. I said earlier, quarterbacks who love to deal. Joey Spallina for Syracuse, the freshman, the double deuce. He will dissect the defense, and Schellenberger's been doing it since day one on campus in Charlottesville. His head is always up. He's always looking to get teammates involved, and he has some finishers who only need the ball in their stick for a fraction of a second.
Connor tried to find a cutter. McConvey is going to give chase. He'll keep it in bounds. Still lots of time to shoot on that 80-second shot clock, now at 25. Garno, he can shoot from distance. Instead, he feeds inside, and that is very typical of Xander Dixon.
Peter Garno, 33 in the throwback white. Not known as a big passer, only 2 assists on the season. And I was just saying moments ago, you give these finishers, Cormier and Dixon, the ball for a fraction of a second. It's a catch, it's a location of the cage, and it's a finish for Xander Dixon. Those 2 players inside, Cormier 24, Dixon 10. The way that they finish is unbelievable, Chris. They are almost automatic from that spot.
The quickest hands in the game, I think, Kark. Maybe both those 2 players, and they're both on the same team.
It's nuts. But this is the pressure of not winning faceoffs, right? You're down 3-zip on the faceoff category in the early stages of this game. You're just asking your defense, Chris, to play way too many minutes. It's like just taking body blow, body blow. You're against the ropes. How do you catch your breath if you're the Syracuse defense?
And a team, too, Kark, as athletic as they'll face all year. When you talk about guys like Schutz, a freight train. Cormier is a big dude. We'll get a loose ball hold. It's going to go against Virginia. So Syracuse, an opportunity that we haven't seen very often early on in this game. Little 6v6 offense.
The other piece of losing so many faceoffs, too, it frustrates an offense because you feel like you need to do something right away, and sometimes you're a little impatient and you're forcing the ball. They've had their hands tied behind their backs all season long because of this faceoff situation.
We talked about Will Mark in cage for Virginia. It's Will Nunes. He's having to make a save right there on the shot by Spallina. Gets it done. Coming off one of his better games of the year. He's really turned it around, Kark. He was hitting a real slow patch mid-year. Since then, he's been hot. 17 saves. Look at this play by Zinn with an opportunity, but bounces it high. But back to Nunes, 17 saves. A season high, career high for him last week against Duke.
Yeah, that 3-game patch, it was Towson, Hopkins, and Maryland. He just didn't love his body language. He seemed to be guessing a little bit, Matthew Nunes. But as of late, I think his play has been spectacular. He's sitting on shots. He's more patient. He's less jumpy.
Shuts inside McConvey. And Nunes was Forced to go up and didn't get a save, though. Now McConvey's going to spin, and he scores!
You want your goalie to feel comfortable in the early stages of a ball game. Matthew Nunes getting involved in the action. Your offense putting up their end of the bargain. He makes that stop. And Thomas McConvey on the other side, the fact that he actually drops this ball, he takes that ball and uses it to his advantage because the ball's on the ground, Chris, and then the defense starts to extend and kind of try to play the ball. When he scoops it, he gets the defense off kilter.
And then Max Rosa had to come to the defense, and McConvey's size and strength just too much.
You never want to drop a ball, but when you drop a ball, if you can use the poor approach by a defense who's trying to get that ground ball to your advantage, that's what opened up that quick little dodge for McConvey.
Connor down the alley. Try to get it to McConvey, cutting to midfield. It'll stay with Virginia. Want to welcome those of you watching North Carolina and Notre Dame. The Irish with the win. Here it's 3-0 Virginia early as the Cavaliers wearing their throwbacks, honoring the ACC champions from 1983 at the half. And here they're honoring the thought of those champs with a great start, Kark, in getting this 3-0 lead here, trying to win their ACC championship this year, make it 4-0.
Garneau, welcome to the party today. He had that early assist to Xander Dixon from up top. This time he goes behind, and if he gets involved in the offense, a plethora of other options for the Cavaliers. It could be scary. Garneau has been dealing as a passer in the first quarter, and now as a scorer. The Cavs are rolling early.
At Rowan University, our momentum is unstoppable. Leaders to mark on the
HD. Alvarado with a turbo.
Morning, and now we got a nice day, and their Cavaliers, Kark, are on fire.
Yeah, assisted goals has been the formula today. Connor Schellenberger, wheeling and dealing. Garneau to Dixon. The poor approach off a ground ball. McConvey recognizes that. And they are playing their midfielders behind, too. So it's something Sean Kerwin obviously scouted against Syracuse. He's taken his midfielders, traditionally, who play from up top, from behind. We see McConvey behind. We saw the goal from Garneau behind. Inverting is definitely something that they are aware of against this Syracuse offense.
Mark forced to make the save. It looked like Syracuse was able to garner possession on that faceoff after a couple of big collisions in the middle of the field. Another one towards the end line with Max Rosa delivering the punishment. But then Virginia got possession only to lose it back to the Cuse.
And that's a problem, right? You're at a deficit at the faceoff X to begin with. So when you actually do win a faceoff, you have to possess the ball. Clearing at 90% is a must. Will Mark getting 20 saves probably against this offense, the highest scoring team in the country, a must. And then possessing the ball after you win a faceoff, an absolute must.
Simmons, he'll look to dodge on the shorty. Try to feed it inside to Leo. And Syracuse once again on a 6v6 can't get a good look, and Zinn is off and running. Quick passing, Schellenberger. Cormier, wide open look, and he misses it. We'll get a whistle and a flag on the play.
Cormier's almost better when someone's in his face. Technical foul. Virginia will be extra man, right? He never misses from that spot.
That was way too wide open.
Yeah, he's accustomed, though, for 2 or 3 players to be draped all over him. He gets a freebie and he misses. This is not your typical Peyton Cormier. There's the push with possession they got on Cormier after the pass. This extra man unit is exceptional, as is Syracuse's. 2 of the tops in the country. This ball spins, and when Garneau's up top hitting his shots, it's almost unguardable because they have all the pieces.
Both top 5 in the country. Cormier, Mark has to make a save. Another one. That one bounces over the top. And there's nobody backing it up because all those Virginia players were taking shots in front of the net.
Yeah, this Virginia extra man, you dodge a bullet if you're Cuse. Because like I said, if Garneau's hitting from the outside, Schutz can hit from the outside. You have the lefty finisher in Cormier, the righty finisher in Dixon, and then the quarterback in Schellenberger. So all the pieces to the puzzle for an elite extra man unit are there.
Syracuse does a nice job to kill off the penalty. Let's see if they can build on a little momentum. Second midfield unit on now in the form of Griffin Cook. Luke Rowe, Jackson Birtwistle. Cook now behind the cage. Spallina looking to dodge and make a play. Here's Roa, another freshman. Kirst inside. Chismar was there to deny the pass. Now a big battle for the ground ball, won by Virginia.
Virginia doing a much better job defending inside, Chris. Last week we did that game against Duke, and there was a lot of openings for Dyson Williams and crew in that ball game. Today they've been suffocating the inside. You've seen twice now Syracuse trying to get inside, and the boys in white just swarming.
Clark in the early going, Virginia is out shooting Syracuse 13-2. Miezon, that's a full head of steam. Quick in front, twister, and a goal for Xander Dixon.
You know, we like to talk about finishing ability in the hands of Xander Dixon, in the hands of Peyton Cormier. But what strikes me the most about Xander Dixon is how he times his cuts. He times his cuts to perfection. The anticipation of knowing when Schellenberger catches the ball and when he's going to release it, and to make sure that he still has an angle when he comes off of that cut, is about as good as it gets. And he does it from either pipe. That's a front pipe cut right there. He backside cuts in terms of the pipes. His ability to sense where the defense is and to time the cuts is out of this world.
Fifth win in 6 tries for Petey LaSalla. You got the sense that he was probably a little bit unhappy with the way Naso won that battle last weekend in Durham, and that he would come out here a man determined, and that is exactly what we've seen in 23 and white.
Yeah, he's owned basically every major statistical face-off stat there is at the University of Virginia. But last week was humbling because normally he has the best of Jake Naso from Duke, who's an exceptional face-off guy. That was the first time Naso had the best of him.
Wow, look at that. Beautiful passing, like eyes in the back of their heads. Right on the doorstep is Dixon again. That's a hat trick in the first quarter.
The passing is beautiful. And I was just bragging about Xander Dixon's ability to cut. This time he doesn't cut, but that's part of the equation here. He just slides behind the defense, knowing the soft spot. This is a fifth-year senior in Jeff Connor, who's been playing since his freshman year, to Xander Dixon, another fifth-year senior. Their ability to find seams, to trust one another, to understand Sean Kerwin's offense, it's remarkable. The sixth sense, right? Like, okay, I'm dodging, and I don't even have the time really to locate Dixon, but I know he's there. So I turn my head for a fraction of a second, and I make that pass.
It's like Gretzky-esque. You know, I know he's going to be there without seeing him there.
And that's believing in your offense, right? Like rep after rep every single week at practice.
This is a great chance for Syracuse, and Nunes makes the save.
There's a look at those throwbacks. How about the laces even, right?
So
as part of the decals, the attention to detail, Connor. These throwbacks are awesome.
Got the orange and white panels, the checkered panels. You got the laces painted on the back. You got the gloves in the, you know, the tan color like the old Brian L35s used to be.
It was the only color they had, right? Back then.
Finally, Syracuse gets on the board, and it's Cole Kirst who finds the back of the net.
He's been a bright spot. You could say he's been a surprise. What he also is a huge, strong human who can soak checks and run through bodies. This is Cole Kirst-esque. If you watch him on tape, he loves to dodge from the wing and up top. And when he does, he can sneak those shots to the stick side of Matthew Nunes. Cole Kirst, first year on campus at Syracuse. He's a captain. It tells you about his leadership. He's able to galvanize the team, and he's taken all these young guys because they play a ton of freshmen. He's taken them all under his wing, and they will miss his leadership a year from now, but they'll also miss his play because he can own a one-on-one matchup.
22 goals this year, 55 goals in 5 years, including the COVID year at Lehigh. Inside goal, that's way too easy. This time it's the freshman Truett Sunderland. Sunderland says, you guys talking about all Syracuse's freshmen. He's a pretty good freshman here at Charlottesville, and Truett Sunderland scores his 6th goal of the year.
Here's the problem for Cuse, Chris. They get the goal by Kirst, right? You feel like, okay, maybe there's some momentum changing here. Maybe they could get another one, make it 6-2. But when you're not winning any faceoffs, you're asking an exhausted defense to play defense again. And it looks like Syracuse is caught in between man and zone. They're in zone right there as the substitutions are lying. And Sutherland just understands that. You saw all the shirts. The blue shirts are playing all the guys coming off the bench in the substitution. But they forgot about the guy who had the ball because Syracuse had the numbers game right there. They had 6 defensive players in the hole. Virginia had 3 offensive players, thinking Virginia's going to wait, but Sutherland's like, nope, not today.
Machusa won that draw. Then he lost possession. Some broken sticks in the middle of the field. Eventually it gets back to Spolina and Syracuse. Now you got Kirst running out of the box here after the faceoff. Luke Rowe, another freshman on the field for Syracuse. Kirst is going to get a look, opted not to take the shot on the run. Roll it back over to Burt Whistle. Burt Whistle's a true sniper. One of the top man-up guys in the country on this great man-up unit, but we haven't had a chance to see that for Syracuse yet today, and we won't here. On the run, it's Scott Bauer. Now he loses after a beautiful check on the ride by Roa, but it gets back into Zinn's hands. He'll shoot. Mark is there for the save.
Zinn understood that he had Owen Hiltz, who's an attackman, caught playing defense. And Will Mark, talk about a guy who's just seen a ton of rubber this season. He's had an incredible year. I think the 2 best goalies I've seen this season, Will Mark and Liam Entenmann from Notre Dame. Those are the top 2 guys, I think, from a production standpoint and how good they are at stopping the ball.
Mark 6th in the country in total saves, and he's had 3 games this year where he's faced 50 or more shots.
Oof. Talk about rubber.
Well, he's on his way for a 4th today. The way things were going in the first quarter here, they may change. And Hiltz with a beautiful look that gets by, And it ends up a Michael Leo goal. Nice pass.
Nice pass. How about incredible pass? He decides to take a shot to the backside. I'm like, where is this ball going? What is he thinking? Owen Hiltz, watch him right here, 77 in blue. Off his back foot, through like 2 sticks, and Michael Leo, who was the hero a week ago against North Carolina, the freshman with the game winner, two-handed cradle guy. You know who he reminds me of? Joe Walters, the great Maryland, unbelievable offensive talent. In 2006, graduated as a Terp legend and played Major League Lacrosse as a midfielder. Played both positions, but that high wing two-handed lefty. I think stylistically, Walters played for Team USA. He was a all-pro for a gazillion years. Michael Leo's got some Joe Walters in him.
A freshman from Seaford on Long Island, another St. Anthony's product. They are just a factory right now. Look at this chance. Forcing Mark to make the save. Is that Kastner? Just went the distance?
Yep.
It's like, no one's going to pick me up. I'm going to take a shot.
Kastner's been super good in the middle of the field. Got to give him the green light. Now for Cuse, you have Kirst with the ball, 40 in blue, Spallina 22 in blue. The freshman who's on track to be the highest freshman scorer in Syracuse lacrosse history in the regular season, when those others did it with postseason games too. They're the two Dodgers, Kirst and Spallina.
Couldn't get the shot they wanted. Instead, Roa took it from distance and had no shot at beating Matthew Nunes. Impressive first quarter for the Virginia Cavaliers on a day when they're wearing their throwbacks. Petey LaSalle dominant from the face-off X. It's 7-2 through 1. Wahoo's on top.
Troy Baptiste, he'll score another. In the PLL, one of the best, if not the best, face-off man of all time. Petey LaSalle is my #2 prospect heading into the 2023 PL draft, right behind Michael Sisselberger from Lehigh. But what I love about LaSalle is his ability to track ground balls on 50-50 scrums. But also, if you don't pay attention to him, Chris, on offense, he makes you pay. And a couple weeks ago in North Carolina, we actually saw him slinging it from deep with his offhand.
Yeah, right. Sometimes I think they may be calling him off, and he's like, no, I got this. I'm going to stick on.
I've been around long enough. I'm not coming off. I earned the right. This is a huge face-off win for Syracuse. You know, statistically, Cuse made some adjustments, only down 6-4 after one quarter. But the issue is, even on the ones they won, Chris, they lost the possession. Virginia was relentless in terms of attacking.
Johnny Riccius has done a little bit better than Jack Fine, so it looks like maybe they found something there in terms of how he stacks up against Petey. But on at least 2 occasions, to your point, Paul, he won the faceoff, but they lost possession right after.
Yeah, so you have Fine and Ricciusa. One thing to keep an eye on too is constantly kind of switching them up, so Petey has to readjust.
Thought they might get Soliday on a slash. Not going to happen, though. Flag stays in the pocket. Kirst to the middle of the field. Pass couldn't be handled by Leo. Somebody stick breaks in half. Means an opportunity for Syracuse. And firing from the far side is Alex Simmons.
Grad transfer from the University of Denver, and he packs a mean punch with the righty. Laser here. Well, that looks like Bauer maybe with a slash. Kirst gets the ball, sticks snapped in half. Quint Kesnick's going berserk right now because he's so mad at all the sticks breaking this season.
Q should have majored in materials engineering at Hopkins. We had nobody to blame but himself at this point. There you see it. Whenever you have a long pole like Scott Bowers break like that, it's big time trouble for the defense, isn't it?
Well, he also broke it on the back of a a Syracuse offensive player, Michael Leo. They're going to call that a slash. So Cuse's extra man, talk about a huge face-off right now. If they could get this, and if they're in pressure inside the box, I would think about calling a timeout, because you don't want to waste this extra man opportunity, because you might have the best group in the country.
We're going to get a procedure, though. It's going to go against Syracuse. Jim Lafredo, Andrew Smith, Dan Zalugozima are officials today.
So that's a wasted opportunity, right? You've seen the Syracuse extra man offense. If you win that face-off and you give Syracuse an extra man, you cut it to 7-4. You're in pretty good shape in terms of the way that this game started.
No question. Instead, Jeff Connor's going to look to just run this man down all the way down. Still 25 seconds. Now Syracuse will compress a little bit. Force Connor to at least run inside the restraining box.
A lot of respect for Connor's game. Like Quinn McCann and Brian Tevlin from Notre Dame, that duo. Connor logs a ton of minutes. He plays on defense. He plays on offense. You could send him behind the cage, inverting. He'll play short stick defensive midfield. You talk about throwback jerseys. He's the throwback midi on this team.
Now Schutz. Behind it, Dixon. Goal line extended. We'll look to maybe get it to Schellenberger behind the cage. Instead, he comes up. Beautiful pass and a shot. What a great goal by Schutz.
Talk about unselfish play. This team is so good in terms of dissecting a defense and catching eyes. And what I mean by catching eyes is you look at the ball, like look at the Syracuse guys right now. Everyone's occupied on the ball. And Landon Clary's looking at the ball. He's guarding Griffin Schutz, and Schutz is like, okay, you're going to stare at the ball? I'm going to backdoor you, and I'm going to finish with a twister. And Lars Tiffany, he loves it. He's going throwback, too. That looks like the old school Jim Ace Adams, the
yes.
D's. In
The
Charlottesville,
tie.
rocking the tie.
Beautiful. Here's Petey.
See, the issue right now for Syracuse is you decide to take Sam Alexo, right? He's been phenomenal this season, 48 blue. You decide to put him on Schellenberger. He's better when he's up in the middle of the field playing long stick defensive midfield, roaming the field, starting transition. But you're so worried about the Schellenberger matchup, you put him down low. But now you lose some of Alexo in transition. And you have a guy, Chris, who loves to play in space, and now you're asking him to play the quarterback behind. The one guy who I think's been great the last few games, off ball and conducting the defense, and rarely gets backdoor like we saw just now, was Billy Dwan. And we haven't seen a ton of him in this game. He's a freshman, and he started the last few games, but now Landon Clary's back in the lineup, and he just got backdoored on that last play.
Yeah, Clary's missed the better part of 5 games this year with a couple of different injuries. On that last play, he had the turnover, ball went out of bounds on a pass that the officials said deflected off a Syracuse player, and Gary Gate couldn't believe it. He was apoplectic on the sideline. But maybe ball don't lie in this case as he gets it back. Mark's in a little bit of trouble here. Xander Dixon's riding like a banshee. Now on the 10-man ride, the open net. Syracuse takes a shot. They can't get there, and it looked like, yeah, there was a player. There was a Virginia player that was closest to the ball when it went out of bounds, almost on the end line, Kark.
Yep.
He was so far back there, I didn't even see him.
That's one thing. I'd like to see a potential rule change. With all the 10-man rides that you see in college lacrosse, I have no problem anyone shooting behind the midline as Ricky Behazon lays the boom there. Look at the shoulders on him. But Chris, I think if it doesn't go in, it should be looked at as a pass, right? You can't reward someone for taking that shot.
Mark had to make a save.
Do you agree or disagree with me on that?
But if you now, for every reaction, there's a reaction, and the reaction for Virginia is I'm going to put a pole all the way back on the end line so I can get possession if you decide to take a shot and miss.
But I just think so many teams are 10-manning, and teams who are feeling the pressure, they kind of get off the hook if they have a guy at the end line and just cheapen a shot and being closer to the ball. Like, reward pressure, right? If you can't handle pressure, you're not getting the ball back. Now, you could shoot from behind the midline and score.
Nunes has been sharp, hadn't he? Very few opportunities for Syracuse, and Nunes has been right on him. Connor beats his man, shoots high.
That's what I mean by Jeff Connor, 4 and white, all over the field. And watch, he will be logging many minutes as a defensive midfielder. That's why he's one of my top 4 two-way guys in the PLL draft, because he could fill a lot of holes for you.
McConvey with the left hand also high. Still plenty of time to shoot. 57 seconds. Virginia has led throughout. Tough angle. Connor will get a better angle. It hits off the pipe.
See, there's Alexo right now, 48 in blue. He's normally way deeper, and he can help you with transition. He's got a great stick. Leads the team in non-face-off ground balls. When you put him at close defense, you lose some of that. And now he's guarding Schellenberger, so you won't see his presence in the middle of the field.
Wow, another turnover in the middle of the field. I mean, you work that hard to clear the ball, and then you give it right back to Virginia in a dangerous spot. Sin backing up inside. McConvey scores.
In a dangerous spot against a defense that is gassed. I said it earlier, if you're Cuse, you're not going to win a ton of faceoffs. You better clear the ball, and you better give your offense many opportunities with clean lacrosse. That is not clean lacrosse. Your defense is against the ropes. The Virginia offense knows it. They are cycling through fresh offensive guys. We've seen 6 offensive middies going against this tired defense. And Lars Tiffany knows. He's like, okay, you want to run, we're going to run. We're going to pressure you, and we don't want to get into a 6-on-6 game with Syracuse in their offense. So let's just create a pace that they don't want to play in.
Syracuse ends up winning that draw, so you can see the face-off numbers are starting to get a little bit more even, but Syracuse has just not been able to do much with possession when they get it. Kirst down the alley. Spallina, the heralded freshman from Mount Sinai. Simmons, little two-man game with Finn Thompson. Inside, that was beautiful work, Kark. Simmons finishes it off.
That's two-man game mastery, Cotter. 2 Canadians who know how to play the two-man game as well as anyone. And this is what I just said with Lars Tiffany. He doesn't want to play against Syracuse in the 6-on-6 set because these guys are masterful in the way they handle the rock. It's the two-man game and the finish by Simmons. The Orange aren't going away yet.
Virginia fans out on the berm, smart to break out the duck boots earlier today. Sun has come out, the rain has stopped, but I'm sure there's a lot of residual mud and rain up there on the berm here at Klockner. Good crowd, as you would expect when Syracuse comes into town, especially a red-hot Syracuse team, having won 5 of 6 coming into this game, Kark. But it's really been first possessions with Petey LaSalle at the start of the game and just masterful offense by Virginia that has kept this Syracuse defense on their heels.
And look, the easy out right now would be like, oh, the face-offs with LaSalle. Syracuse statistically actually has been okay. They've made adjustments. After the first quarter, it was only 6-4 in terms of the face-off breakdown. But the issue is all those other areas that Syracuse has to be clean hasn't been the case. Blown clears, some easy transfer of passes, balls in the dirt. You're not winning this game if you can't play clean everywhere on the field.
Syracuse has been 50% before that face-off that Petey LaSalle tracks down.
That's a swarm. That's what you need. But LaSalle, that's why he's my #2 prospect. He'll find a way to get the ball. Right? Like when he loses face-offs or he gets double-teamed, LaSalle is so good when the ball's on the floor. He can score goals. He gives you all those other little aspects of what you want in a face-off guy.
And a beautiful ground ball and a punt return clear by Kate Sawstead. Now
969 face-off wins, Cotter. I mean, that is... I mean, I did burpees the other day in the gym, and I couldn't walk for 2 days.
Sure.
This guy, 969 wins. It's almost 2,000 face-offs he's had.
Mark lost it. Now he gets it back. Syracuse has got to get it past the midfield line at the 60-second mark. And that man, the football player, the linebacker from Stanford, who transferred in the offseason, Ricky Miezon, lays the lumber on Carter Rice, who's no slouch himself. But now we're going to get a flag on the play, and I think Miezon is going to go.
I want to see this replay because I don't know if the hit caused the helmet to fall off or the loose helmet popped off because of the impact of the hit that was elsewhere, not by the hit. Full-time turn, getting him with a cross check. Let's see here. I mean, that looks like the clean hit.
Yeah, that's not it. So it was on Dixon on Mark.
Because
so
that's a clean
there's no
hit.
call. Right. Talk about
And that's exactly. Dixon gets a cross check. Yeah, there's the cross check. That's a good call. That is a very, very good call. And this is a good no call, too. That's a really good hit by Ricky Miezon. Carter Rice's helmet doesn't fall off because of the hit. It's as he's hitting the ground, it pops off.
So now this deadly man up for a minute full time for Syracuse. Huge opportunity for the Orange. Can they get it started? They do. That's one from Simmons.
This extra man's ridiculous. That's why in the first quarter, Chris, I told you how big that face-off was when they had the extra man, because this is a unit that moves the ball and has mastered skip passes. Owen Hills now has 2 super elite skip passes in this game. One was off his back foot. This time he's centered, and he finds Alex Simmons, who's had 2 beautiful right-handed hammers. This extra man unit is a treat to watch.
Now Syracuse going with Jack Fine at the face-off dot on a huge face-off.
I'm okay with this. I'm okay because I think it throws Petey off in terms of getting into a rhythm. I know Rachusa has really found his groove a little bit, but when you put Fine out there and you start rotating the guys, Petey then has to think and adjust in terms of the styles of Fine and Rachusa.
Syracuse still man up for another 16 seconds. Skip pass to the far side. Extra. Nunes makes the save on Spallina. Sawstead gives chase.
Great save by Nunes. You have an attackman in Spallina around the pipe. You got wide. You see how he got wide there? He wasn't skinny. He got wide.
Take a look at the save from Nunes, robbing Spallina and keeping Syracuse to just 1 goal in that full minute man up.
Yeah, left side of your screen. You see how he gets wide there. He kind of comes out as opposed to being skinny on the pipe where Spallina could have shot around him.
Schellenberger, nice catch. Now McConvey gets it back to his left hand, just being hounded, but he got free, and Mark was able to get a piece of it. Shot clock resets to 60.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did Virginia have shots after the first quarter? 18 shots?
Yeah, they're at 27 now, though, still. Ooh. I mean, they are on pace to just hammer Mark for the second half, the remainder of this first half and the second half. Shuts the question mark. That one wide. Chased down by Sunderland. Another Virginia offensive possession where Syracuse defenders are chasing all over the field. Dixon back to his left. Now to Schutz. Slide comes, double team. Schutz loses it, can't pick it up, and it's a turnover.
Exceptional double team by Kakemo and Landon Clary. They timed it once Schutz decided to start his roll, and they were relentless when the ball hit the dirt.
And then they give it right back.
You cannot have that. You just make your best play of the day defensively to give it back to this offense.
And they make you pay like they almost always do, Clark.
That's awful. If you're Syracuse, you're going to turn on the tape, and this is going to make you sick. It's the basic transfers. Catching and throwing. Like, you have to demand more from your team right there. You make an incredible stop, and it's a basic transfer of a pass with no pressure on you. And then you give it to Mr. Automatic. I'm livid if I am Syracuse right now in terms of the coaching staff and what was at stake. You make that huge play just to give it back.
And you've made the point before in this first half, Clark, that Syracuse has actually done pretty well at the face-off X, all things considered. And there's a flag down. Now they get a delayed call that's going to go against Virginia.
You can't make the excuse, oh, we've had to deal with PD this half. We're down by 5 because we can't win a face-off. That's not the case. What's been the Achilles heel in this game is sloppiness in basic transfers. There's been multiple turnovers where Virginia's not even on the Syracuse players' gloves. It's a basic pass to a guy 10 yards away, and you can't make it.
9 turnovers in total for Syracuse in the first half. Hiltz. Behind the back pass, now behind the back shot on the outside of the cage. Still though, Kirst is going to get another look, and he sends it wide. We finally get the whistle, and we'll get the call.
This behind the back pass is, that's just beautiful. And the anticipation too. Like Roa, a lot of times as an offensive player, I actually think the behind the back shot by Roa is there because he's losing his angle. And I have no problem with it. But when you get a behind the back pass as an offensive player, you just want to pay it off with a BTB too. But the anticipation of this, like Roa's cutting, to make that pass is one thing, but to make it before he even escapes. Wow.
Syracuse man up for 30 seconds. Keep an eye on 9 up top. Burt whistled 9 man up goals to this point. Second in the country. Hiltz fakes. Now he tries to skip past. That one was tipped and off Spallina. So Syracuse doesn't even get a shot off in that 30-second man up.
See you later. That's speed.
If he can keep the ball.
Oh, what a grounder.
Tried to force that pass a little bit. Maybe the extra card, maybe one too many. Tried to get it to Finn Thompson, and now Zinn turns it over for the second straight time.
You know, Virginia's getting a little sloppy in spots too and letting Syracuse get multiple opportunities here.
Clock ticking down to the final minute of this first half. Kirst on Kastner. A couple of big ones there. Simmons trying to work on Soliday. Inside, that's Finn Thompson, but Nunes sharp.
He's made some good ones in tight, Chris. Give Matthew Nunes so much credit because middle of the season he hit that tough patch. But boy, oh boy, has he responded. I thought he gained his confidence when they went on the road and beat the #1 team in the nation in Notre Dame and South Bend. That was a game, Matthew Nunes, when you look at his season, where things turn for him. Finn Thompson one-on-one. Goes to the off stick of Matthew Nunes. Stays at the same level of the stick. Finn's normally a lot like Cormier. He's from the same area, Mimico, outside of Toronto. Played for that same club, just in a junior level, because Peyton Cormier is a 5th-year senior. Finn Thompson, a true freshman. They normally can those shots. And if you watch Finn Thompson, normally he'll get the goalie in that spot to hesitate a little bit, right?
Right.
Lull him and then shoot low. There's Matthew Nunes with Kip Turner, the goalie coach. Works with face-off man Petey LaSala as well. Does an exceptional job.
Nunes is looking good in those throwbacks, too. Just a reminder, they're honoring the 1983 team at the half. Look at those old buckets. So nice.
There's the new.
Good job. Yeah, they did a good job mimicking it. You got the block V on the arms.
They had the stitching. Look at the stitching, Cotter. They even had the stitching. We talked about the laces. The stitching's awesome as well. You gotta love those.
The lace, those old bucket helmets used to have to pull those laces tight to get the right fit.
Get the right fit. It was never a good fit. My head used to just
bouncing around in there. It was like wearing a bucket.
Exactly. Used to be able to fit, like, you know, both your hands through one side of that helmet back in the day. Now they're actually form-fitting, way more protective.
Those gloves mimicking the tan gloves. They switched from the leather, probably, would you say, I don't know, very late 70s, maybe around 1980, to where they had the different color gloves. And
yeah, the 80s, I remember Syracuse and Hopkins, probably in the 84 or 85 championship, were actually wearing, like, color-coordinated gloves for their university.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Final few seconds here in the first half. Virginia had a scoring opportunity, foiled by the Cuse. Now can they get one more shot? They got the ball in the right hand. Schellenberger with the pass and a save by Will Mark. Just as the horn sounds to end the first half, maybe that'll give the Orange a little bit of mo going into the locker room.
Oof. You might have the best pure stopper in the country in Will Mark. I mentioned him and Liam Entenmann are the top 2 guys, I think, nationally. And he has been able to come up huge and keep the Cuse in game after game. Down 5. If they can clean things up in the clear and the basic transfers of passes, they got a shot here, Cotter.
We're at the half. The #3 team in the country in a physical matchup. Doubling up Syracuse, but the Orange not going anywhere in Charlottesville this afternoon. Klockner Stadium, nice crowd assembled today. 10-5, Virginia on top of Syracuse. It's the #4 team in the country, doubling up the 12th ranked Orange. Paul Carcaterra, Chris Cotter with you. And Cark, at times, especially early in that first half, it looked like Virginia was going to run away with it. But Syracuse has done at least a nice enough job to keep this a game. Now, what adjustments do you think both these teams make, especially Syracuse going into the second half?
Well, look, if you're Syracuse, you're really excited by the fact that you're not getting dominated at the face-off X. Petey LaSalle has 9, and the duo of Urchusa and Fine have 8, so that's good. But this isn't good, because you've been sloppy all afternoon with 11 turnovers, giving this offense rep after rep And it's one of the most unselfish offenses you'll find. So when you turn the ball over, they are relentless. It's the highest scoring offense in the country. They have shooters everywhere. And the sloppy play of Syracuse, as bad as it is, it's encouraging for Gary Gayton's staff at half to say, you know what? If we clean up our middle of the field play, we can win this game. And if Rachusa and Fine can go 50% like they essentially did in the first half, Cotter, Cuse could win this game.
Lars looking at his notes, scribbling a couple of things down. 11 turnovers for Syracuse in the first half, leading to 31 shots, 18 of them on goal for this Virginia offense. And right away, a face-off violation against Syracuse, and Petey will put it in play to start the second half.
Yeah, 11 turnovers for Syracuse, only 15 shots, and the Cavaliers have doubled those shots with 31. You just can't give this offense all those easy looks. You have to rest your defense if you're Cuse. You can't turn it over in the middle of the field.
Connor almost turns it over there, but picks it up off the turf. Dixon looking to dodge. Comes back upfield, gets a little bit of space and scores.
You saw him turn to the berm with his hands up. You know, he's saying to himself, oh, you thought I was just a finisher. You thought I don't have the shake. Well, what people probably don't realize, Xander Dixon was an ex-behind-the-cage attackman in high school. And then he turns into this incredible finisher. But he's got years in a foundation of making plays with the ball in his stick. And that is a gorgeous, hard plant foot, roll dodge right into the shot. And what a sharpshooter he is.
Fourth of the day, 45th on the year for the Slim Reaper. And the lead is back to 6. And big battle for a loose ball. Thought we might get a push in the back. Didn't get it. Chismar initially came out of there with it. Now we get a whistle. We'll get a loose ball procedure call against Virginia. So now Kirst and Simmons and company will get a chance to see what they can do 6v6.
So I think Lars Tiffany and the defense are probably saying, let's force Syracuse to be Dodgers. Let's be slow to go, slow to slide, daring these guys on the perimeter to make a play. Who are the players for Syracuse that could beat their guy? Throughout the season, Joey Spallina gets some unassisted goals. Cole Kirst does. Who is making it happen for the Orange?
Now Spallina working a two-man game with Michael Leo. Got Sawstead on him, tried to check back and took a shot, but there was no chance of that one reaching its target. Still, it'll stay with Syracuse, 34 to shoot.
Yeah, watch this possession. This possession will tell me a lot about how Lars Tiffany wants to defend this team. Do they slide? Do they respect Syracuse as Dodgers? Or do they kind of sit back and suffocate the Syracuse inside game?
That was Kirst who took the shot. And, you know, talking to Gary Gate there in the week, Paul, he said Kirst is the guy who can beat his man. And he's on the best defender in Cole Castor for Virginia. That's a matchup we've been watching all day.
Yeah, because Lars Tiffany knows you got to respect that guy. He knows Kirst on tape has been making plays, dodging, using that bottom shoulder right there.
That physical matchup of heavyweights. Leo will get the shot. Nunes goes down to make the save. Soliday on the clear. McConvey, quick pass. Cormier scores.
Remember in the first quarter, Cormier had a wide open shot and he missed it. This time it's like, how does he get this through the defense that's right in front of him? Number 2 in the nation in goals per game. 24 in white is a beautiful finisher. And this is great ball movement by Connor Schellenberger and then the old teammate. They played together since they were 4 years old. Thomas McConvey and Peyton Cormier outside of Toronto as the Cavaliers celebrate. 2 goals to start this third quarter. The highest scoring offense in the nation, proving you why they're so legit.
Petey wins the face-off. Juke move on possession. That pass was tipped, trying to get it back to Petey. How about that? Xander Dixon trying the skip pass over to 23 for the goal.
With his offhand, he's a righty. He's got his left hand porched up, right? On that 5-and-5 area. A little bit above goal line extended. Why not?
That's respect. McConvey gives chase. 7-goal advantage for Virginia early going in the second half. As you saw at halftime, Notre Dame already won earlier today against North Carolina and South Bend. These two teams will match up again next week. Notre Dame and Virginia. Looking forward to that one in Charlottesville. Dixon getting roughed up a little bit, but keeps possession. He shoots and scores! Take that!
I've got one word to break down this goal. Patience. Tremendous patience by Xander Dixon. It looks like Brandon Aviles is winning this physical matchup. He knows, okay, I'm going to go back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, an over-aggressive defender who wants to play the body with another roll, I can get him on his heels. That's exactly what he does. Attackmen know it better than anyone, right? Like when you feel pressure, that is your opportunity to change direction. So Aviles was getting in on Dixon, and Dixon actually used that to his advantage.
Petey, Schellenberger, Mark makes the save. Can they get early offense? Kirst. Spallina will slow it down a little bit, get his offensive middies, including Jackson Birtwistle on the field. Birtwistle putting a shoulder into the defender. Here's Roa against Zinn.
Virginia's very slow to go, Chris. Very slow. Syracuse has to own a matchup. Virginia is not going to slide and play into the strength of Syracuse, which is an elite passing team. They're daring them to beat them one-on-one.
Bauer quickly. Schellenberger, he'll shoot, misses, but backed up by the Cavaliers. Connor upset at himself a little bit. Thought he should have put that on target.
I like the varied shot selection by Schellenberger, though, because Mark saved him high, a possession ago. But if someone told you Xander Dixon would have 2 unassisted goals in this game and then 3 assisted goals, you wouldn't be shocked with only 5 minutes into the third quarter that you scored 13 goals, because you're hitting on all cylinders, inside out, dodging, assisted goals. It's been incredible performance by the Cavaliers offensively in this game.
Turnover by Virginia. Cormier on the ride. Now Dixon trying to get possession back. Nice job by Syracuse, though, with the clear. Now maybe they'll get the chance for early offense, and they do, but Rosa's shot nowhere near the target, and he'll limp off.
And no backup. So now you go back to a tired defense.
With the easy clear. Under 10 minutes to play now in this third quarter. Virginia had a 5-goal advantage at the half. They've stretched it to 8 here in the third. McConvey tried to make it 9.
Those two just flipped the script, right? You saw moments ago McConvey to Cormier. This time Cormier to McConvey.
Now Xander had his man hung up initially, got a better angle. Mark is able to make the save. Back up top to Connor. Fresh 60 for Virginia. Connor working on Carter Rice, now behind to Schellenberger. That's Alexo on him as Schellenberger comes topside. Gardo shot wide.
Mark just gets peppered, Connor, right? Like there's no off days for 88 in blue. These shots against a tired defense. This defense is against the ropes.
23 shots on goal in this game for Virginia. Connor looks like he may want to add to that total. Misses the target, though, as Mark watches it sail wide. Stays with Virginia, though. 18 to shoot for Connor Schellenberger. Schellenberger working on Alexo. Try to leave it for Xander Dixon.
It's good late lift by Alexo, 48 in blue, to disrupt that pass by Schellenberger.
Now Finn Thompson, youngest of 4 brothers. Older 3 went to Marquette. Finn was actually a Michigan commit before he decided to come and play at Syracuse for the legendary Gary Gait. Kerr, speaking of brothers,
something.
Yeah, Kerr shoots and scores. Well, his 4 brothers will be happy to see that.
Well, Cole Kirst has been the answer in terms of creating offense on his own. Virginia is daring Syracuse to dodge and score. Cole Kirst says, okay.
That big win over North Carolina the other day for the seeding purposes. And look, you got Syracuse and North Carolina now on the other side of the bracket. That's how big it was for BC to get that 1 seed.
That game was incredible. I watched essentially every minute of it. And at one point in time, Syracuse was up 12-6, but never count Acacia Walker and the Boston College Eagles out. This is a winning program that's been to the last 5 championship weekends in women's Division I lacrosse. And it kind of changed the complexity not only of the ACC, but kind of the national scope, because Syracuse was undefeated and #1 in the nation and the deepest team in the country. And all of a sudden on a Thursday night, Boston College with the huge upset and a share of the ACC regular season championship as well.
Yeah, so early in the year, right, it looked like North Carolina might be, unbeatable. Hey, they're vulnerable. Now, Syracuse, after looking unbeatable for almost the entire year, now they're beatable. And you always have Boston College there, and you can't underestimate the Eagles, even without the greatest player in the history of the game in Charlotte North, who has moved on. She's now our colleague. CJ Kurtz may be trying to take her job, too, at some point in time. He doesn't own mine already. Turnover. Finally, Syracuse flips the script a little bit. They forced the turnover.
Can they clear it, though? This has been an issue. And I think some of this has to do with Sam Alexo going to close defense, because in the middle of the field, he's been so good and helpful in that clearing game. When you bring him back down to close defense, you lose him in the middle of the field.
Chance for Syracuse, and they make it pay off. The official, yes, was not in the crease. Waited for the official word from Dan Lugozima, and he gives it. Goal is good.
Billy Dwan, the freshman. I was asking where he was in the first quarter, right? Because he's been so good as a freshman defender playing inside, and This Virginia offense is so good and jamming it inside. That's a strength of Billy Dwan's, but also strength is his stick skills. Under pressure, catches it and turns his body in one motion. A monster goal for the true freshman, one of the top-rated defenders in the country a year ago out of Loyola Blakefield High School in Baltimore. Father Billy Dwan was on the Hopkins staff for 20 years, and young Billy has quite the future.
They will wave off the flag because the goal was good. It looked like Billy Dwan was surprised he was that untouched in front of the crease Kark. Like he expected to get drilled. And he turned around, was like, no one's going to lay me out. All right, I'll score.
The bigger issue, I think he was worried about tiptoeing around the crease area, right?
Yeah, he's not used to being in that neighborhood.
No.
He's used to be able to run into the crease, in and out of the crease whenever he wants. Syracuse hanging around. Down 6. Spallina loses footing. Gets it to Birtwistle.
Slippery track. Remember a couple weeks ago when they played Duke?
Right.
On Friday night, Virginia, everyone was flying all over the field.
Yeah, we did have a lot of rain last night into this morning, and even a little bit here at the start of the second half. And you can see right around the crease area in the goal mouth, a lot of mud. That's not going to help here, but Mark goes down and makes the save on Cormier. That's at least twice, Kark, that Cormier has had point blank in front of Will Mark, and Mark has come up big.
If someone's on Cormier, he scores that goal. It's ridiculous, right? The two easiest looks he's had all season, maybe. He doesn't can it. But when guys are draped all over him and they're pressuring his bottom hand, somehow, miraculously, he finds the back of the net. You know, those Canadians, they're just so used to pressure and guys on them. Peyton Cormier is one of the truly great finishers of the last decade. When you think of guys that can bury shots in big moments, and they're never out of a shot, meaning like you think you have him dead to rights and he finds a way.
Kirst trying to use that big body to muscle in. Spallina finds the open man, and Owen Hiltz scores for Syracuse. The Orange, they're not done by a long shot. Get it back down to 5.
Here's the deal on this goal. Although it wasn't an unassisted goal, and that's what I've been calling for Syracuse, because they have to win these matchups. The one guy who could win a matchup draws the double, and then Spallina behind the cage is so smart. His IQ is so high, he knows someone's going to be open. So Kirst, who doesn't get the assist or the goal on that play, is responsible for it, Cotter, because he forced a double, and then he found Spallina behind the cage. And the Orange juggler, Owen Hiltz, who's had some phenomenal passes today, cans that one as a shooter.
Only a cat from Peterborough could don a mullet that nice. So a tip of the cap to Owen Hiltz for the choice of hairstyle and for the goal.
So Lars Tiffany is saying, anybody but Cole Kirst we are not sliding to. So Cole Kirst wins that matchup and puts Virginia in a vulnerable spot to double quickly. So if I'm Gary Gate and Pat March and staff, he's going to be the guy that I want to trigger the offense all the time, because if he doesn't win the matchup, he could still draw a double, because Virginia's concerned about him right now, and really only him in terms of the way that they're sliding and supporting.
Face-off violation against Petey. Syracuse has buried their last 3 shots. They had missed 9 previous to this 3-goal run, and now with that face-off violation, another possession here for Finn Thompson. That one hit the outside of the pipe, ricocheted behind. Spallina with the backup.
That's Leo's spot. Michael Leo, the freshman. What a class, too. That you got to give John Desko, who was coaching until 2021, a lot of credit for this freshman class, because of outside of Finn Thompson, who was a Michigan commit, Gary Gate flipped him, and then the staff with Gary Gate, Petramala, in March flipped Riley Figueres, who's the top-rated defender from Rutgers. Outside of that, these are all Desco's recruits. Guys like Spallina, Billy Dwan, Luke Roa. They have a lot of talent, and you got to give John Desco credit for the way that he closed that class.
Unfortunate moving pick on the other side, though, and another mistake, an unforced error by Syracuse when they had all the momentum in the latter moments of this third quarter. Now they give it back to Virginia, and the offensive onslaught continues here with Schutz to the middle of the field with 3 defenders on him, and he shoots it wide. Connor looking to go quickly. Schutz just puts his shoulder into the defender. He misses, but Schellenberger is there.
Cotter, you ever feel like when a guy is so big and fast and strong, you're like, okay, this is an automatic shot. It's just a matter if he can. That's what Schutz, when he has those matchups with short sticks from behind, it's like, watch out.
Defender fell down, but Connor's shot is deflected high in the air. This will be a call against Syracuse. So a delayed flag. Connor shoots it. Now we'll get the whistle.
That's unfortunate because they were deep into that shot clock. If they were able to come out of that defensive possession clean, Virginia was in rush mode. It's on Alexa.
30 seconds.
48.
So now not only will Virginia Clark have the man up and the 5th best man up unit in the country, but Syracuse will be without their best defender.
I think there was some interference on Alexo, 48 in blue, against this extra man unit. Not good.
Virginia player fell down. We'll get another call. There was a reason he fell down. Can Virginia get a look? Schellenberger will take it. Too high. Connor's frustrated with himself.
Yeah, he's frustrated. He's not canning his shots. But the ACC, Cotter, when you think of extra man units, Virginia, Notre Dame, and Cuse, 3 of the best.
10 blue, 30 second technical. So you got 8 in the first hill.
30-second hold there. Take a look at this. As the Syracuse staff wants an explanation.
Let's see where the hold is. I saw 2 Virginia players colliding.
Yeah, I think they gave interference too on the inside Max Rosa. He checked Xander Dixon early, who was totally away from the ball.
Cormier, that's just not fair. Syracuse had just been released from the box, but it was a 2-man advantage for the first 8 seconds of that man up, and Cormier inside is just, he's missed a couple of shots today, Clark, but he wasn't going to miss that one.
You're down 2 in terms of the numbers games. It's 6 on 4. The only way you're going to stop the bleeding if you're Syracuse is Will Mark comes up with a ridiculous save. You know they're getting a shot off 6 on 4. And look at the head of Cormier, the top of his stick, catches that ball in the slight movement of the head of his stick across his face, just changes the complete trajectory of that shot. And it's the subtle fakes that really put a goalie at a vulnerable spot. It's not these long drawn out fakes. It's that little, even 6 to 9 inches, Cotter. When you move that stick 6 to 9 inches, and no one did it better than that guy, the greatest player of all time, and Gary Gate. He mastered the subtle fakes.
Little wry smile for our officials today. He said, I think if I could read his lips, he said, you got to be kidding me. Not in favor of the 2 calls that led to Syracuse being 2 men down and a Virginia goal. Now we're going to get a dead ball foul against Thomas McConvey for conduct.
After the goal, maybe he was chirping, but the biggest issue there is it's after the goal, so there's no face. It's Syracuse's ball right out of the gate.
Let's see what they can do now. Nice job to goose it to keep it from an over and back. Little
Sun's
unsettled
out,
here.
Cotter.
Yeah, Birtwistle wants to take advantage of that. But Noon says no way.
You know, the way that Virginia is playing defense, I mean, they are sloughed in big time. You know the old defensive theme in basketball, right? Inside out. They are inside out.
No chance there. Virginia takes advantage of Syracuse, Clark doing the exact opposite, not getting back in the hole. And it's an easy goal.
That's well said, my friend. Well said. You want to play defense inside out, and that's why Virginia's been so good in this game against Syracuse. Syracuse decides to go a little pressure, and then the numbers game breaks down with Cade Sawstead. And then the inside finish for Noah Chismar, and he's not your typical short stick defensive midi. He was an attackman in high school. So when you drop him deep into that clearing zone, you know you have a surefire finisher. And that's a luxury too, because essentially you have a guy who can play defense, Chris, but you also have a guy that you don't have to rush off. Like Petey LaSalle in the faceoff game, you don't need to rush off Noah Chismar. He's comfortable with the ball and his stick.
This guy the same, number 4 for Virginia, is a guy who can log a lot of minutes on both sides of the field, create all kinds of matchup problems. Because of that player's skill level, right, Clark, and also because of the skill level of the personnel you've kept on the field to defend him. Horn sounds to end the third quarter. Syracuse just can't put together enough of a run. They get closer and closer, and then Virginia just shows its class. Heading to the fourth. The number 4 team in the country, 1 quarter away from notching another dub.
At Rowan University, our momentum is unstoppable, pushing forward, pushing boundaries, and blazing our own path. We don't wait for the future, we make it, preparing new leaders to face the challenges of tomorrow, creating innovative pathways to earn a degree on your terms, attracting a community of unique students who are ready to make their mark on the world. So make your mark and be unstoppable at Rowan University. At Rowan University, our momentum is unstoppable, pushing forward, pushing boundaries, and blazing our own path. We don't wait for the future, we make it, preparing new leaders to face the challenges of tomorrow, creating innovative pathways to earn a degree on your terms, attracting a community of unique students who are ready to make their mark on the world. So make your mark and be unstoppable at Rowan University.
What's good is Ryan Scoble, a defender on the Mercyhurst men's lacrosse team. In 2021, Scoble was diagnosed with heart failure. Told by doctors that the only way forward would be a heart transplant, he received a match on Mother's Day 2021 and underwent surgery for his new heart. Following his release from the hospital, few expected him to be back on the field, but Scoble viewed the obstacle as an opportunity and was back in 18 months. With a new heart and a second chance at life, Scoble is impassioned to inspire others facing adversity. Ryan Scoble had everything pulling him down, but what kept him motivated throughout his recovery and comeback was the love of the game and the people who are part of it.
Well said by our colleague Dana Boyle. What a beautiful story. And in 2023, we're celebrating what's good in the sport of college lacrosse, men's and women's. And what a story. Ryan Scoble, a complete fighter with resolve and grit to come back on the lacrosse field. What an inspiration to everyone. And Ryan, you have a fan in Paul Carcaterra, you have a fan in Chris Cotter. And we have so much respect for you and everything that you've accomplished in the last few years. What a fighter.
Absolutely. Well said, Clark. Love those pieces. Nice job by Dana. Sun coming out as well here in Charlottesville. Getting set for a big fourth quarter in Syracuse. Maybe needs a big fourth quarter from big CJ Kirst. Here it goes to his left and beats Mark High, but Noon's High. Wow.
Cotter, you know when you're having like one of those early Tuesday morning lifts and you feel like you're on top of the world? That's how Cole Kirst has felt as a Dodger over the last month. He has been so good in terms of the way that he's owning one-on-one matchups. And I mentioned earlier in this game, it's the bottom shoulder. So he's dodging left. If you look how he uses that bottom right shoulder as like a battering ram, and that gets the defender off his line and frees his hands up. But Cole Kirst, one of 5 Kirst brothers, Connor and Colin out in the PLL, younger brother CJ, well, he might win the Tewaaraton. He's a front runner along with Brendan O'Neill and Pat Cavanaugh. O'Neill from Duke and Cavanaugh from Notre Dame. And then the 5th Kirst brother, got to give the young guy some respect. He's in the cage playing in New Jersey as a high school junior. That's Caden Kirst. So Mom Michelle has her hands full with 5 boys who love the sport of lacrosse.
Big goal for Kirst and Syracuse at the start of this fourth quarter. Now, can they put together a run that's more than just 2 or 3 goals? 3 goals has really been the longest run for them in this game, just to kind of keep it within striking distance. But Virginia's been in control from the start. Schellenberger. Connor waited for Sam Alexo to get there. Now he's going to try and pass it off. Still 30 seconds to shoot for Garno, who is behind the cage. Now Schellenberger up with a shorty on him. Forces Mark to make the save, but yeah, Garno. You think Garno's eyes weren't as wide as saucers with that shot?
And Schellenberger right there, he's gassed because he had the one-on-one matchup with Murphy, the short stick. And I think if he came another step or 2 off of that roll, he would have had a better angle against Mark.
Connor, shot was altered a bit by Landon Clary. Mentioned it before, good to see Clary back in the lineup. He's missed a bunch of games this year, really 5 games, 2 separate injuries. Came back, had concussion-like symptoms, had to sit again. Got that against Princeton, but now he's back. Schellenberger cutting, and Will Mark has been his nemesis today.
He has. Schellenberger has had some terrific passes in this game. I think when he breaks down the tape as a shooter, and he spends so much time on his craft and breaking down his release points and his accuracy in terms of how he moves a goalie. Today will be a day when he breaks down the tape. He's going to say, I should have canned that one. I should have canned that one. He's normally good for those.
We'll have a chance against another top-flight All-American goaltender, Liam Entman, next Sunday, as both Notre Dame and Virginia will wrap up their season from Charlottesville, their regular season, that is. Hiltz with the extra pass inside. Maybe forced it a little bit to Finn Thompson. Zinn's there to pick it off.
I really like the short sticks of Virginia and the way they're maturing. Grayson Soliday leads the team in non-face-off ground balls, the 5th-year senior, and then another 5th-year senior in Evan Zinn. There's maturity there, there's experience, there's athleticism. You have the feet of Zinn and the strength of Soliday. That gives you options in terms of how you defend.
Syracuse doing a nice job to force the turnover.
You see Alexo,
Thompson
right?
Slows it up, yeah.
You see him down there? He loves to start transition 48 and blue. When you played him at close, and I understand Dave Petramala's thought process there, you're worried about Schellenberger. Maybe he has the best feet. Maybe he's the one guy who could guard Schellenberger. But you lost Alexo in the middle of the field.
Talking to Gary earlier in the week, I was like, what's ideally, if you had the depth and you had everybody back from injury, where would you want to play Sam? And he said, well, for us, it doesn't matter because he's our best cover guy, so he's going to play down. Call's going to go against Virginia.
But the problem is with that, he's got to hold for 30 seconds. Cotter is, he might be your best cover guy, but you don't have anyone remotely close to him in terms of how they handle in the middle of the field with a 6-foot pole. You got the hold right there.
Solid.
Looks like they got Solid, yep.
Every time we do a shot of the Virginia stands, I see Petey LaSalle's dad.
What comes to mind?
Long Island.
He looks exactly like Petey, right?
Correct.
He's like just an older version of Petey.
This is when you need the telestrator to point him out.
And he's also jacked. I know you have respect for his weight room game.
He's jacked and tan.
Yes.
I mean,
always tan.
Oh! Bird whistle. 25th of the year for Jackson Birtwhistle. Back to 5.
Yeah, Birtwhistle, there's Petey's dad. He's got the sweatshirt on. It must be cold because normally he likes the short sleeve shirt to show off the guns. 15-10, he likes where his Cavaliers are now, but this man-up unit. And the thing is, they're all back next year. All 6 of them, right? You got a bunch of freshmen and sophomores with maybe the most feared extra man offense in the country. I mentioned also in the ACC of Virginia and Notre Dame that are up there. But the way they move the ball and the way that they also feed from the crease. And what I mean by that, Chris, is guys catch the ball in the crease and then make like ridiculous passes off that, where we're used to guys on the crease doing what when they catch the ball? Just shooting.
Yeah. You saw Birtwhistle, that's just his spot, right? 10 man-up goals on the year for Jackson Birtwhistle.
Still searching for that first assist, Birtwhistle. Right. Quint was chirping last week that he had the same stats as me. I had a few assists, but of course Quint had to take some shots.
So Sanders got Cole hung up. Directing traffic now. Mark will come out and challenge him. Cole loses footing. Advantage for Xander Dixon, and he makes him pay.
Looked like Will Mark eventually got back into the goal area when he was chasing. And it might have hit off Mark's leg. So Dixon has him hung out, right? You got to make a move here. So Mark bites to the left side, and then when he runs back, races back, I think he gets hit at first, hits his body and then goes in. Or his stick and then goes in. But the bottom line here is you're looking at 2 teams, one with just crazy experience in guys like Xander Dixon and Peyton Cormier and Connor Schellenberger and Thomas McConvey and Petey LaSalle. All these guys have won national championships. McConvey didn't. He's a transfer from Vermont. But you look at all these guys who just have logged monster minutes and have played deep into May against a Syracuse team that's essentially inexperienced when you think of the numbers of games, right? And they are coming. Trust me when I say this. Syracuse is coming. And they're going to fix this. You know, the face-off game in the offseason, they have a tremendous face-off guy in Johnny Mullins coming, who's from Massachusetts, who actually plays a little bit like Petey LaSalle, how he could stay on the field and he could shoot. So I think that's going to be huge for Syracuse next year to give them another option at the face-off X, but you bring back so many of these offensive players and a lot of these D guys as well. So just experience-wise, polar opposite teams.
Like he was running in from the box. That's going to make his dad happy. There he is.
Stand up, Pete Sr. Your boy's had one heck of a career. He's got one more game guaranteed at Glockner in the regular season against Notre Dame. But that's what makes Petey Petey. He's got the guts, he's got the grit, he's got the nerve to stay on, and he's got the game. I've seen so many different shots out of Petey LaSalla over the years, coming down right off the wing and shooting high heat. You saw it inside this time too, and that's why he's a chameleon. He's a difference maker in the game, Cotter, because he could stay on and do so many things outside of just winning faceoffs.
They'll give Petey a little bit of a break there. Put Mac Eldridge, the freshman, in to take that draw. Highly recruited kid. You think Eldridge is the heir apparent after... I mean, Petey's got to be the greatest faceoff man in Virginia history.
End of discussion. I mean, he's got... I know there were some great ones. Yeah, Andy Krause was phenomenal. Steve Krause was phenomenal. But what Petey does outside of just winning faceoffs, that's why I think he's been so good. His ground ball game, his ability to counter, shoot and score and stay on the field. I mean, that's what makes Petey Petey, right? Like, Petey's kind of one-on-one in terms of Virginia history as face-off guys because of all the other things that he does. And that's why it's so hard to see where Mac Eldridge kind of lines up and what he means to this team moving forward, because that guy's essentially taken every draw.
He's going to win 1,000 face-offs in a Virginia uniform. Remarkable.
And the one thing I did mention, toughness. Like, Petey last week did not have the game he wanted against Naso. Like, coming into today, you knowing Petey and you knowing his body of work, did you know he was going to respond?
For sure. And he did right off the bat. I think he won 5 of the first 6 today, Clark, and never looked back. Now the Wahoos up a touchdown and an extra point, looking to add to it. And they do with Peyton Cormier. He and Xander Dixon just keep padding those numbers, Clark.
This offense is downright scary. It's got the experience, it's got the perimeter guys, and it's got the closers. One of them goes by the name of Peyton Cormier. He scored the 2nd most goals per game in the nation. He's legit.
I'm an investor in a fund that helps advance innovative sports tech. I'm also Mr. Leg Day 1989.
Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Get 3.44% APR for 36 months plus $500 purchase allowance on a 2023 Cadillac XT4, XT5, and XT6. Visit your local Cadillac dealer today.
Virginia were in the throwbacks today because at halftime they honored the 1983 team that won the ACC championship, one of 5 ACC titles or co-ACC titles in the 1980s, and led by that man, Clark. I know you're familiar with Ace Adams.
Jim Ace Adams, a legend of a coach. And, you know, these teams kind of got overshadowed because they didn't win a national championship from 83 to 86, and there he is with his wife, Betty. He was an incredible ambassador for the sport of lacrosse. There's Betty in attendance today, the wife of Ace Adams. And, you know, I go back to those teams, too. You think of the ACC championships, the 5 in a row they at least shared. And there's Lars Tiffany wearing the tie.
Right.
Kind of like Ace Adams right there. That's a beautifully done thing by Lars Tiffany. They got overshadowed because they didn't win that national championship. But when we spoke to Lars Tiffany this week, he's like, they need to be recognized. Like, to win the ACC that many years. From 83 to 86, the 4 in a row. And, you know, you ran into some hot teams. In 83, Syracuse won the national title. 84 and 85, it was Hopkins with Larry Quinn and Del Dressel. 86, Virginia goes to the national championship, and they lose in overtime to North Carolina, their ACC rival, on a Gary Seibold jump shot. And that ended that game in overtime. And that game was at the University of Delaware. It was one of the first Final Four games I watched. I was 10 or 11 years old. And I remember watching that game and seeing North Carolina win the national championship. But props to those guys who played in that era. And props to Lars Tiffany for recognizing them.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. And the throwbacks kind of putting the icing on the cake today. That's got to be a hold.
Yeah, they got Truitt up top. It's a good pass by Griffin Schutz, and for Truitt to get that shot off. There's Max Rosa. He's done a lot of work, as all these defenders at Syracuse. They've played way too many minutes. You know, Connor, what's interesting, let's keep in mind the ACC a season ago only had one team in the NCAA tournament. And now fast forward to 2023 as we see this hold. That's a no-brainer on Caden Cole. The three teams that you'd have to say have separated from the pack are ACC teams.
Yeah.
Duke, Notre Dame, and Virginia. Like, who wants to play those three this year? That line would be short.
You got to think the way it's setting up, Kark. You know, the top 8 teams are seeded, and they will play the first round of the NCAA tournament at home. And, you know, those three teams you just mentioned, plus you're looking at Maryland, Hopkins, Penn State, and Cornell. It's probably set or very close to it. I mean, you'd have to have one of those 8 teams, I think, really fall off the table here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, well said, brother. Props to Penn State, who's clinched at least a share of the Big Ten title. Maryland Hopkins later today. That will be a monster game. You know, sometimes we overlook, we just get used to Maryland dominating so much. But John Tillman, I think this has been one of his better coaching jobs, with basically an entire new team in so many different spots outside your close defense. And then Peter Milliman at Johns Hopkins. They've got 10 wins. So the Big Ten will have something to say about it. But I think from a talent perspective, you have to feel comfortable with the ACC. I think they'll get at least 2 teams at championship weekend. Would you be surprised if they didn't?
Yeah, I would be surprised. I think you're right. Probably 2 is the number that you would look at. 2 of those top 3 teams. Flag down. This will be a delayed call against Syracuse. Corey brings it in. Beautiful ball movement, as we have seen all game long, and Xander Dixon finishes it off. Goal number 7 on the day. They'll wipe out the call. 19-10. All Wahoos now here late in the going in the 4th.
Outside of the 2 unassisted goals that he had in the 3rd quarter, Xander Dixon, for the other 5 goals, has probably all in touched the ball for about 10 seconds, right? I mean, his finishing ability, he is not a high volume shooter. He shoots around 50%. I mean, he's scoring at a crazy rate. But for him to score 7 goals, he'll only need some days 10 shots. The efficiency of Xander Dixon and the ability to transform his game, because he was a behind-the-cage player in high school, and now he's a fantastic crease finisher.
Lars making some substitutions. David Rozelle in goal, the veteran, as he pulls Nunes after an outstanding effort from Matt Nunes again today. 10 saves. Most of those 10 saves, too, Kark, very good saves.
Oh, big time.
Very little guard variety.
Tiffany, yeah, absolutely, Cotter. I think for Lars Tiffany, too, when Nunes was at his low point, if you were to tell him that he was going to respond late in the season like that, he would take it and run, because you felt like Virginia was vulnerable there, and now it's turning into another strength for this team. So what is their weakness?
Want to remind everybody looking for Tennessee and Florida on the softball dime, and that game's going to start over on ESPN News. As soon as we wrap things up here, we'll send it over there. A little SEC softball. Dixon has 7 goals in this game, Kark. That's tied for 2nd best in a single game in Virginia history, tied with his teammate, Peyton Cormier, who had 7 goals against Ohio State earlier this year. These two guys.
How many times do you think we've said, like, Dixon's name and then followed with Cormier, or said Cormier's name and followed with Dixon, right? Like, it's almost like you'll say Connor Schellenberger and then Cormier and Dixon like they're one person, right? Because they score in a lot of the same spots. Stylistically, they're very different, but they make you defend the paint at a crazy level. And what that does is it opens up opportunities for the perimeter, for guys like Griffin Schutz, for guys like Thomas McConvey, Garneau early in this game. You have to protect the paint at a different level when you play Virginia, and that's Syracuse struggled protecting the paint. And I attribute a lot to it for how much defense they had to play. And I don't think you could just blame it on the faceoffs. I thought Rachusa, whoa, are you kidding me? This shot is pure insanity. It's 19-10 at the time. And you think, okay, now it's time for storytelling. Well, guess what the story is of this play? Absolute ridiculous trick shot by Alex Simmons. It's the two-man game again. Thompson and Simmons have done that beautifully. Alex Simmons also is a righty, and he shoots that behind his ankles with his offhand. To do that with your strong hand is one thing. To do that with your offhand is just like out of this world craziness.
Goal of the game. It just shows the overall skill of the Canadians. You mentioned it with Finn Thompson and Simmons all game long. Those two have been playing a two-man game out front. And that goal was ridiculous.
Goal of the game. I'm going to say it, of all the goals I've seen this season in terms of level of difficulty, and if you factor in that's his offhand, that he did it with his left hand, that's the sickest goal I've seen all season. We're just not jumping out of our seats because the game is kind of out of hand. But if you really appreciate that goal for what it is, that's the best goal I've seen this season.
Fun to watch. There's no question about it. 4th overall pick of the NLL draft. He an outdoor guy too, you think, at the pro level, or is he just going to be a box lacrosse player? No,
I think with the right team, there's a possibility there.
Okay.
He's the one guy on that extra man unit. We were talking about all those guys coming back, that whole unit. They'll miss Simmons because he's a really good passer in transition and in extra man sets. If he's in the right system, like if you put him around some really good feeders like a Grant Ament, like he could fit in with the Archers. He could fit in, I also think, with a Rob Pennell and the Redwoods. I just think you need a guy to have elite passing skills. Michael Sowers with the Water Dogs. Those are the 3 teams. Like if I was the GM coach of the Water Dogs, the Redwoods, and the Archers, I would think about Simmons because you have the passer to play with him.
Rosa scores for Syracuse. That didn't make Lars Tiffany very happy, but let's look at this Simmons goal.
Yeah, he's a righty. Keep in mind, Alex Simmons is a righty. He doesn't shoot that behind the back. He shoots that behind his ankles. And then the follow-up, Rosa, who's done crazy minutes on the defensive side, gets one past Roselle. You know what I mean, though, Cotter, right? It's all about the fit when you draft these guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to talk a lot about it. The PLL draft coming up on the 9th of May. We're going to be in Bristol with Ryan Boyle and the crew as the horn sounds on this one. Virginia donned the throwbacks, and they picked up their 9th win of the year, Kark.
Fear the throwbacks. If I'm the Cavaliers, I might ask Lars Tiffany to throw a tie on again, and we put those old buckets on, Cotter.
For Paul Carcaterra and our entire crew, I'm Chris Cotter. Thanks for watching, everyone. So long from Charlottesville.